welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 530 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, not only asked to agree with me, I'm asked you to hear me out. We just finished week 1 of the NFL season. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about this episode is going to be an overreaction, but a reaction all the same. And I understand that week 1 doesn't necessarily dictate how the rest of the season is going to go, but there are some things during week 1 that has to be discussed. And I think the most discussed game, or the game that has the most to talk about, obviously, is the Buffalo Bills going up against the Baltimore Ravens. The Bills coming back from 15 down in this fourth quarter. Four and a half minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Ravens were up 15 points, and they ended up losing 41-40. I have to start this off by talking about the Ravens because, yes, this is yet another year where I picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. This is yet another year where I think Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP. When something happened once, it just happens. When something happens twice, it might be a coincidence. When something happens 3 times, you might hold on. This might be a trend. But when something happens 17 times, there's issues afoot. John Harbaugh has been on the losing end of a game where they're leading by double digits majority of the game going into the fourth quarter. He has lost 17 of those games. Now, obviously, Lamar Jackson isn't all a part of those 17, but John Harbaugh is a part of those 17. I'm never going to disrespect John Harbaugh as a coach. I'm not going to say he can't coach. I'm not going to say he's a terrible coach. But there are things that myself as a viewer shouldn't instantly pick up before the head coach of a football team. The Baltimore Ravens, even with Lamar Jackson, has a long history of taking their foot off the gas. And I get it. You're up 15 with 4.5 minutes. Your goal is to win, obviously, but you want to run out the clock. I get that. But my thing is, when is your history going to set in? When is the fact of you've blown 17 of these games? By far the most from anyone. When is that going to start kicking in that, okay, maybe let's not try to be conservative right now. Let's try to finish this. You know what hit me? I feel like John Harbaugh is the football equivalent of Doc Rivers. We all know Doc Rivers as the coach that obviously won an NBA championship with the Celtics in 2009, I believe, or 8, one of those two. We also know that Doc Rivers has blown the most playoff series leads in NBA history. And we talk about Doc Rivers as one of these great coaches, as one of these pantheon coaches, because of that championship. And while, yes, all the playoff blunders get talked about, they don't get talked about in the same light as the championship for obvious reasons. But when people talk about Doc Rivers, he's looked at as such this historic coach. I always think to myself when I hear Doc Rivers' name, I wonder how they talk about him if he didn't win that championship with the Eagles. I mean, with the Celtics. I wonder how Doc Rivers would be looked at if all he had was those playoff blunders on his resume. I don't know how many years we can go by. And again, I'm not calling John Harbaugh a bad coach, but how many years can we go by? And Nick Wright said this, and shout out to Nick Wright. Nick Wright said, the Baltimore Ravens are always on the losing end of these games. Up big, the other team comes back and wins. The Ravens are always on the losing end. The one time I can remember vividly that Baltimore was on the winning side of this was when Lamar Jackson, I think it was 2-3 years ago, they were going up against the Colts and Carson Wentz. And they were down big, but Lamar Jackson and the offense led them to the win. That's the only time I can think about it. And my thing is this. I wonder how do we talk, just like I talked about Doc Rivers, I wonder how we would talk about John Harbaugh if he didn't win that Super Bowl. Or didn't have win that Super Bowl. Because, again, 17 times, not one, not two, not three, 17 times John Harbaugh has been on the losing end of these type of games. Derrick Henry is going off. And I'm not calling John Harbaugh a bad coach because a lot of things led to this loss for the Ravens. Derrick Henry's fumble. I'm not taking away from the incredible game that he had. Derrick Henry was one of the main reasons why the Baltimore Ravens got to 40 points. And the fumble ultimately not only swung the momentum over to the Bills side, but it essentially sealed the fate for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson. I'm not in no way, shape, or form am I putting this loss on Lamar Jackson's shoulders. But what I will do is Lamar Jackson, the last possession that they had, either A, Lamar Jackson knew that we had 4 downs to play with, which you should have, or if you didn't believe that, I wouldn't have thrown it short to DeAndre Hopkins. But that's a nitpick. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry had incredible games. They were the main reason why the Baltimore Ravens had 40 points. Derrick Henry and the fumble, which he's already admitted to, is one of the major reasons why the Buffalo Bills were able to come back. But still, why is it that every single time this happens, we talk about, damn, the Ravens took their foot off the gas. The Ravens got too conservative. That's coaching. That is coaching. But the biggest reason, and this reason actually, I'm going to broaden it out a little bit. I'm going to talk about the Buffalo Bills as well as the Baltimore Ravens. If you sit here today on a Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, whenever the hell you listen to this, you should feel much worse about your team's chances to win a Super Bowl if you're the Buffalo Bills or the Baltimore Ravens, because there's no way, shape, or form that you go into a game against the team that you just faced in the second round, probably the best playoff game in the playoffs all last year, and both defenses give up a combined total of 81 points. Baltimore, we were happy about Jair Alexander. We were happy about, getting some of the pieces back, having such that vaunted, and not to mention that defense played better towards the end of the year. But the defense gave up 41 points. Scratch that. The defense gave up 22 points in the fourth quarter. Josh Allen damn near threw for 250 yards in the fourth quarter alone. He threw for 389 yards and rushed for 30 yards. The defense was getting cooked. And if you're talking about the Buffalo Bills, Lamar Jackson, if it wasn't for that, there's a lot of things that helped the Buffalo Bills get that win. But if it was not for Lamar Jackson, if it wasn't for Derrick Henry fumbling the ball, they still gave up 40 points. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry combined was the reason why they had 40 points. Don't get me wrong. I will give credit where credit is due. I've been very loud and very vocal about Josh Allen winning the MVP last year and how I thought that MVP should have went to Lamar Jackson. I will say that for this game, Josh Allen showed why he's the clear-cut best player in the NFL right now. I don't know too many quarterbacks that would have had or been in that situation and won. Josh Allen right now has proven that he is the best player in football, at least the best quarterback. He was incredible. He was sensational. But it also goes back to, how many times are you going to let Josh Allen get out of contain if you're the Baltimore Ravens defense? As much as we praise Jair Alexander, he was getting torched. And now I know he didn't. I don't think he practiced he didn't practice a lot. He didn't do the preseason, but still, this is the biggest game, at least of the season right now. And this will happen. I'm not going to stay on this game for too much longer because, we don't need to break down the numbers. We don't need to do all that. What I'm saying is this. It's unfortunate and it's crazy that the Baltimore Ravens are always on the other side of this. We're never coming into Monday or Wednesday or whatever and thinking to ourselves, the Baltimore Ravens had a great comeback win. It's always somebody had a comeback win on the Baltimore Ravens. And if I'll say it. If we're ranking whose fault this is, number one is the defense for giving up 41 points. Number two is Derrick Henry's fumble, which he has already admitted to. And number three is John Harbaugh, the coaching staff, being conservative. The defensive, it's just. I think I'm starting this episode so vigorously is because it's true. When you look on paper, the Baltimore Ravens have one of, if not the best rosters in football. Yet and still, this continues to happen. And what's even worse is Lamar Jackson played incredible. Derrick Henry played incredible. You get to 40 points. You have a 15-point lead with 4.5 minutes left in the game. And we're talking today that the Buffalo Bills prevailed. That's crazy. But if there's any team that would do that, or lose a game like that, it is the Baltimore Ravens. So while I'm not going to go back on my Super Bowl pick, games like this is why I have no faith in my pick. Because again, Lamar Jackson played great. Derrick Henry played great, and it still didn't matter. Derrick Henry, I think, busted out 3 30-plus yard runs. First time in his career. Didn't matter. And on top of that, the Baltimore Ravens have one of the toughest schedules in the league. So, speaking of that, congratulations, I will say, actually, to the Buffalo Bills for beating the Baltimore Ravens 41-40. Let's move on to the next game. And let's have a real conversation about Caleb Williams. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Chicago Bears 27-24. And I'm not saying Caleb Williams was terrible. I'm not saying Caleb Williams isn't a good quarterback. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is trash. But as a quarterback, that was the number 1 overall pick. I would think that Caleb Williams, especially after what we saw last year and getting a new head coach and Ben Johnson, getting a new coaching staff, I would expect Caleb Williams to be much further in his quarterback journey than he is right now. The thing that's so frustrating about, watching Caleb Williams is he has all the intangibles. Caleb Williams does things that some of the greats can't do. Caleb Williams, I understand why, if you just looked at him, you understand why he'd be a number 1 overall pick. But just as much as he is that, he also is this. He has such a high ceiling with such a low floor. And more times than not, just in this game, actually, let's just stick to this game. We saw the ceiling. I think he went 10 for 10 the first 10 passes. Caleb Williams in this offense looked incredible, even though they only had 7 points in the first quarter, 10 overall in the first half. Caleb Williams in this offense looked great. There's a reason why when we talked about the NFC North, we were saying it's going to be extremely competitive because even the team that you might think is the worst team, which is a lot of people's consensus, the Chicago Bears, they have a really good roster, and they have Caleb Williams, and they have Ben Johnson. But even in this game, he went 10 for 10. Like he was letting it fly. And then the old Caleb Williams started to come out. The terrible overthrows, the plays where just throw the ball away, and it feels like he is allergic to throwing the ball away at times. I know he tries to be Superman and makes these plays, but sometimes the best play for your team is just let it go. I understand when he does all that scrambling, and there were times in that game where when he scrambled, I'm thinking to myself, yo, he's down, and then he gets a positive net. I'm like, oh, shoot, okay. But then there's also times where like, bro, what are you doing? And I think the reason why I'm so critical on this now is because a lot of those layups that he missed could have won the game, like the pass to DJ Moore at the end of the game. DJ Moore was wide open, and the man threw it to damn near and he wasn't even rushed, and he threw it to damn near the first row. If he would have just threw it to the numbers of DJ Moore, we would be talking about a different game. I'm not saying throw away Caleb Williams. I'm not saying that he's trash. I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is I'm surprised that he is not he's not more advanced with everything that he has than he is now. On top of that, we even saw the whole bad body language that he does. I'm not going to make a grand assumption, but what I will say is this. If what we saw continues, obviously they lost, but if what we saw continues with the Chicago Bears, they will be the worst, and we'll talk about them in a second, but even with what we saw with the Detroit Lions, the Chicago Bears will be the worst team in this division. Now, yes, I get it. You're going up against one of the best rosters in football, especially on the defensive side of the ball, in the Minnesota Vikings. I understand that anytime you go up against a Brian Flores team, that's tough to handle. That's tough to deal with. And I understand that the Chicago Bears offensive line was getting worked. Even though they spent a lot of money on it this offseason, it was getting worked. But some of the same issues that permeated Caleb Williams' time in USC and even his first year, we saw we saw week 1. Now, I want to talk about J.J. McCarthy for a second. Because J.J. McCarthy gave you the ultimate seesaw game. The first 3 quarters of this game, J.J. McCarthy looked terrible. It looked like all the excuses that we were thinking is going to be, hey, he missed his whole entire rookie season. He ain't played in so long. It's going to take some time. That's what it looked like. He threw a pick 6. It looked bad. But then he turned it on that 4th quarter. So, and he helped lead. He scored 21 points in the 4th quarter. He went. You even saw it in the hype video at the end of the game. Like, that's why I was surprised that J.J. McCarthy had a captain patch on his chest, but I see why. He never quit. And I feel like we saw how good he can be. But we just need, I don't think that the Vikings are going to be playoff contenders or Super Bowl contenders. I'm not going to say all that. But this was a very important game for the Vikings. And this was a very important game for J.J. McCarthy. And you can see, I think in that 4th quarter, we saw how good he could be. I think in the first 3 quarters, we saw that floor. If you can get a healthy win, I mean, obviously you'll get a healthy medium. I think J.J. McCarthy and this Vikings team, they're going to be good. I don't know about great, but they're going to be good. Congratulations to the Minnesota Vikings for beating the Chicago Bears 27-24. I'm going to briefly talk about this game because it happened on Friday, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers beat the Kansas City Chiefs 27-21. There's a lot of factors that you can talk about in this game. One factor being, and I will say, before we do that, I will say that I'm hearing a lot of radical takes from this game. I'm hearing takes as radical as the Chargers are Super Bowl contenders and they'll win a Super Bowl. I'm hearing radical takes as far as the Kansas City Chiefs are they're just done. They're terrible. They're never going to be good again. You're hearing it all from this game. And shout out to Bomani Jones. He said something that was striking. He's like, yo, the Chiefs have won the AFC West 9 consecutive years, which obviously dates Alex Smith days. So when they come out and lose a Super Bowl, when they come out and lose week 1, it feels like the sky is falling because we expect such a level of excellence from this Chiefs team, from Patrick Mahomes, from Andy Reid, from Chris Jones, from Travis Kelce, that anything below that, it feels like the floor is falling. Here's my take. And again, a lot of these are going to be hot takes. It is what it is. I think, one, until Rashee Rice gets back, the offense is going to look very similar to what it did last year. The defensive or offensive line still isn't great, even though I thought that it would be better. It wasn't great that first game. And yes, you have Hollywood Brown, you have Xavier Worthy, but until you get that number 1 receiver, which obviously he's not going to be here for 5 more weeks, this offense is going to look more stagnant. And I don't feel good about, because the offensive line is not good. That means Isaiah Pacheco isn't going to get the great lanes. On top of that, it feels like they're leaning more on Kareem Hunt than Isaiah Pacheco. And I think the defense played the best that it could play. Look, I have never seen – he's had some incredible games, don't get me wrong. But I have never seen Justin Herbert play better than he did game one. 25 for 34, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was incredible. He more than outplayed Patrick Mahomes. If you get that Justin Herbert, if you get that Quentin Johnston, who I think caught 2 touchdowns, if you get that version of the Chargers, they could be title contenders. They could make a deep run. But let's slow down on the Chargers. Let's slow down on the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to be okay. Again, I think also what it is teams are closer to the Chiefs than they usually have been. Like, I think the Baltimore Ravens are close to the Chiefs. I think the Bills are close to the Chiefs. I think the Chargers could be close to the Chiefs. Usually it's the Chiefs and then everyone else. That's just not the case anymore. That doesn't mean Patrick Mahomes isn't great and everybody's not great, but still. And also, it's week 1, and it was a divisional game in Sao Paulo for some reason. I don't know why they were in Sao Paulo for a divisional game, but hey. Congratulations to the Chargers for beating the Chiefs 27-21, but let's not make any grand assumptions about either team. I will say the Chargers played great. The Chiefs did not. Chris Jones had a bad misread at the end of the game. It is what it is. Chris Jones is still a future Hall of Famer. They'll be okay. Again, as I continue to talk about this and as I continue to go about these games, I have to the reason why I keep saying that it's just week 1 is because I'm reminding you guys that it's just week 1, and I'm reminding myself, let's not overreact. But boy, the Green Bay Packers beat the Detroit Lions 27-13. And I don't think there's a team that I had high hopes for coming into the season that I feel worse about than the Detroit Lions right now. Now, again, it's just one game, but still. Every fear that you would have about this Detroit Lions team after you lose both your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator in one offseason came to fruition. The defense looked terrible. The offense just didn't have that spark. And shout out to the Green Bay Packers. They did a perfect job of getting – see, Jared Goff is not a mobile quarterback. Jared Goff does not want to be a mobile quarterback. He wants to play in the pocket. He is the best when he is in the pocket. He is almost a pure pocket passer. Shout out to, again, the Green Bay Packers. They did an excellent job getting him on the move, taking him out the pocket, and essentially he didn't look great. I know when you look at the numbers, he went 31 for 39. He only missed 8 passes, but it wasn't great. And again, when you have weapons like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, who just signed a contract extension before the game, like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, all these people, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs had 9 carries for 19 yards. Sam Laporta was the highest pass catcher with 79 yards. Like, that's not going to cut it. But I didn't know how this team was going to look without losing your top 2 coordinators. And like I said, it's going to look rough. That first game was rough. And it could just be an anomaly. It could just be first game. But if that's what they look like throughout the season, then it's going to be a long season for the Detroit Lions. And I know that I had the Packers going to the Super Bowl, my prediction, but I'm sure Jerry Jones is probably kicking himself. Maybe not, but I'm sure he should be kicking himself. Did you see how good Michael Parsons looked? You see how transformative he is to this already stacked Green Bay Packers defense? Michael Parsons, mind you, you got Rashad Gary, who's an incredible defensive player. You got Xavier McKinney, who's an incredible defensive player. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Michael Parsons only played like 29 snaps. And it was clear who the best defensive player on this team is. The fact that you just wrecked a team that was one of the best teams in football last year, you completely dismantled them. Shout out to the offense too, man. It was a complete game. Jordan Love didn't have to do much. He only threw 22 times and rushed for 3. So, shout out to the Green Bay Packers for beating the Detroit Lions. Oh, boy. You know, I think the game that probably had the second most storylines was the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers going into MetLife Stadium and beating the Jets and Justin Fields 34-32. Now, let me harp on the negatives first so I can end with the positives. I'm not going to throw away the Pittsburgh Steelers defense because we've seen games where they've given up a bunch of points. I'm not going to just throw them away because, again, T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward, like, this defense is going to be okay. It is alarming that you gave up 32 points to Justin Fields, but we've seen games like this, and then we've also seen games where they'll hold your team to 3 points, to 6 points. We've seen that. We've seen games where they've held more explosive offenses to that. And on top of that, I mean, the Jets. I know the Jets was looking at that probably like, what the hell? You get 107 yards from Breece Hall. You get 280 or 218 yards passing from Justin Fields with an extra 48 rushing. You get a Garrett Wilson good game. Like, there's not much. There's not much you can talk about in a sense of negative outside of your defense giving up 34 points as well. And Aaron Glenn being a defensive-minded coach, that's kind of ugh. But he is, you know. And that fumble from, I think it's Xavier Gibson. Yeah, that pretty much turned the tide. But that's kind of where the negatives stop. You knew that there was extra motivation for both Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields. The way that Justin Fields' tenure essentially ended for Pittsburgh and pretty much the entire tenure for Aaron Rodgers in New York. You felt like this was a very important matchup for both of them. And I felt like going into the game, it was a very important matchup for the direction of each team. A lot of people before this game was very upset that Aaron Rodgers is donning the black and white and gold. Like, people do not like Aaron Rodgers personally, and they did not want him as their quarterback. Imagine if you go into the place that you played for 2 years, essentially one because you missed all of the first season, and you lose to a player that not only was on the team last year, but got benched halfway through last year for Russell Wilson, who also wasn't on the team. I will say this too, though. I was wrong about this Steelers team. I didn't think I thought the Steelers were going to be good with Aaron Rodgers. I didn't think they were going to look this good. Now, again, it's week 1. But Aaron Rodgers, if he goes out and throws 4 touchdowns and looks as good as he looked, because he looked almost vintage Aaron Rodgers this game, I may have to second guess the rankings for the AFC North, because they look damn good. Calvin Austin looked good. DK Metcalf looked good. Everyone looked good. Jalen Warren rushing. I know he only had 37 yards, but he looked good. And I will shoot the Jets some bail. Justin Fields looked really good as well. He just didn't look as good as Aaron Rodgers at times. But Aaron Rodgers was sacked 26 or was sacked 4 times. That can't happen. Aaron Rodgers, if he gets anything close to what, or continues to get anything close to what we got in week 1, this Steelers team could very well compete for a top spot in the AFC North. That's how good they can be, especially when their defense is clicking on all cylinders. And I think it's not going to be as terrible of a year for the Jets as I thought it would if you get this type of Justin Fields. I was lamenting that Justin Fields picked the Jets, but it looks like it could have been a good fit. So we'll see. Congratulations to the Pittsburgh Steelers for beating the Jets 34-32. The Rams beat the Texans 14-9. Look, Matthew Stafford looked like a player that ain't been practicing. I know he was 21 for 29, 245 yards, but he looked all of the player that ain't really been practicing. He looked like he needed to get the rust off. He looked like he has not been practicing because he got back issues, even though Puka Nacua went crazy. 10 receptions for 130 yards is crazy. But I think the story of this game isn't just the defense for the Rams, but I told you guys this. And people went in my comments and told me how wrong I was, told me I'm a hater, told me I'm clearly biased. I told you guys, don't expect much from C.J. Stroud this year if the offensive line is going to look what it looked like last year. And lo and behold, C.J. Stroud was sacked 3 times for a total of 37 yards. C.J. Stroud threw another interception. The reason why I'm not going to call it a sophomore slump, or because we know how good he is, it's just he has one of the worst defensive lines in football. At least he did week 1 and all of last year. And when you're playing a good team, that's not going to cut it, especially a good defense like the Rams. So don't expect much from this team if they do not address what it looks like they can't. If they don't address the offensive line, that's just, it's not going to work. At all. Congratulations to the Rams for beating the Texans 14-9. I know it's week 1, and I'm not jumping to conclusions, but the Commanders beat the Giants 21-6. The Commanders look pretty good. Jaden Daniels, 19 for 30 for 233 yards. He also rushed for 68 yards. The guy that everyone told me was overweight and fat, Deebo Samuels, he rushed for 19 yards. He had 77 yards reception and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin looked like he ain't really been practicing because he clearly hasn't. But he, the defense came to play. Washington, the Giants came into
DC, and they left with an L. Washington is 1-0 for the year. I don't know how they're going to fare against they have a much tougher test on Thursday night against the Packers, but we'll see. Let me talk about Russell Wilson for a second. And let me talk about where he is in his career right now. I don't think Russell Wilson is bad. I don't think Russell Wilson is washed. I don't think Russell Wilson is terrible. What I think is Russell Wilson is not at a point of his career where he can overcome a bad offensive line. I don't think Russell Wilson's at his career or at a point of his career where he can pick up an offense where there's glaring holes. Because outside of Malik Neighbors, there's not much there outside of Cam Scatterboo at the running back position and Tyron Trace Jr. There's not much on this team outside of Malik Neighbors offensively. Russell Wilson is not at that point of his career where he can overcome a bad offensive line. That is exactly what the New York Giants have. The biggest bright spot of this team is the pass rush. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. Those are premier players. When we talk about the strength of the weakness, I will say, everyone is going to point to Russell Wilson because I think he's easy. But again, Russell Wilson is not good enough to overcome a bad offensive line. And I know what's going to happen. And I said this when we had the divisional breakdown. Jackson Dart. People are already calling for Jackson Dart. People are already saying that Russell Wilson should be benched for Jackson Dart. And I'll tell those people, okay, I understand that Jackson Dart is younger. He may be a better runner than Russell Wilson is right now. But how good do you think Jackson Dart can be behind a bad offensive line? Because that's essentially what he's walking into when he becomes a starter. I said this was gonna happen, man. I said it's gonna be a couple weeks, maybe 1 or 2, maybe even 3, where Russell Wilson just doesn't play up to standard. But then again, I ask, how are you going to play up to standard? I know, look, he went 17 for 37 for 168 yards. He averaged 4.5 pass rushing or 4.5 yards a pass. But I ask you, if you watch the game, how much time did Russell Wilson really have to throw the ball? And I'll honestly say, as much as I'm a Commanders fan, the Commanders' pass rush ain't as good as the Giants made them look. We'll see what happens, but I'm sure that, and you're already hearing calls for major changes for this Giants team. So we'll see. Ooh. Remember all that momentum I was talking about? The Carolina Panthers can ride going into the season, how Bryce Young and the team finished really good last year, and not saying that they were just going to be gangbusters, but they had momentum going into the season. I don't know. They must have left that momentum in the offseason because the Jaguars beat them 26-10, and boy, every single time I feel like I'm trying to big up Bryce Young. I'm trying to say how good Bryce Young can be. He shows his whole ass. Bryce Young went 18 for 35, 154 yards. He had a QBR of 49. Bryce Young was absolutely horrific. Now, don't get me wrong. I may have been a little more down on the Jaguars than most. The Jaguars could possibly have a really good year. Travis Etienne rushed for 143 yards. This is the same Travis Etienne that was on the trading block essentially all off season. And Travis Hunter actually had a pretty decent game. He played both sides of the ball. He did really good. Obviously, he played more offense than defense, but Travis Hunter played pretty well. This Jaguars team can be really good, but I mean, you have T-Mac, 5 receptions, 68 yards. Xavier Legette, 3 receptions, 10 yards. He disappeared. It was Bryce Young was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I don't know what happened to that momentum we were talking about, but they must have left it in the offseason because Jesus Christ. Congrats Jaguars for beating the Carolina Panthers 26-10. A game that if you're both sides of the ball, you should not feel good about either one of these teams. The Denver Broncos beat the Tennessee Titans 20-12. Now, I will say Cam Ward looked okay. It looked like a rookie. And I know that sounds like an insult, but it's not. He looked like he was playing against one of the best defenses in football. 12 for 28, 112 yards. He had a passer rating of 54.5. He looked like a rookie. I think the most eye-popping issue is Bo Nix. Bro, Bo Nix, 25 for 40, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 100. Now, people killed me for this because I highlighted it, but it's looking more and more true as we go. Bo Nix is starting to look a lot like Mac Jones, bro. And I'm like, I want to say I like Bo Nix because in Oregon, but, bro, Bo Nix was garbage that game. And honestly, if they played a better opponent, they would lose. One of the biggest reasons why they won is because they played against a team that really don't got offense. Tony Pollard had 60 yards, and he also the most reception yards in this game was 29. You're not going to do much. Now, yes, the defense is really good, and the defense saved them a lot, but still, boy, I mean, I'd feel good if I was a Tennessee fan knowing that we saw some glimpses of some really good stuff from Cam Ward, but I wouldn't feel good about the team as a whole. And if I'm a Denver Broncos fan, I'm looking at Bo Nix like, what the hell, bro? That was bad. Now, yes, the Tennessee Titans defense is good, but congratulations Denver for beating the Titans 20-12. We got to sit on this game for a second. The Colts beat the Dolphins 33-8. If there is any team that needs to be in panic mode, it is the Miami Dolphins. It got so bad that Tua Tagovailoa got benched for Zach Wilson. You had Daniel Jones go 20. Daniel Jones, who we saw what Daniel Jones looked like in New York. He went 22 for 20. He only missed 7 passes, 272 yards. He was cooking them. And Tua was god-awful. And we saw Tyreek getting upset again on the side. It was bad. Absolutely horrible. And I think the worst part about this, and why I said that, I know it's just week 1, but I think you should be in panic mode. This team had a very loud offseason with a bunch of negative press, negative stuff. Tyreek Hill going back and forth with the team. You had stuff from Tua Tagovailoa. There was just a lot of noise. And there was also a lot of question marks coming into the season about Mike McDaniel and about this team, and if they can finally get over that hump. And you're going against a team that had just as much noise, but for different reasons, especially the quarterback position, and you only score 8 points. And you allow 33 points. Daniel Jones looked like a top 5 quarterback in the league. Daniel Jones. That's how bad this Miami Dolphins team looked. Defensively, offensively, everything. What happened to Minkah Fitzpatrick? What? If it looks anything like it might be panic time for. I don't think the Colts are that good. I just think the Dolphins might be that bad. And what's crazy is, bro, just 2-3 years ago, the Dolphins put up 72 in a game, and now you're letting Daniel Jones put 33. Man, okay. Let's go over it. This was a pretty good game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Falcons 23-20. I think the talk of this game is the fact of the Falcons trusted Michael Penix to throw the ball 42 times. 27 for 42, 298 yards. They lost, but it was a good game. You played against one of the best teams in football. You outdueled Baker Mayfield, even though he did have 3 touchdowns on you. Emeka Ibuka went crazy. I think he had 2 touchdowns. Yeah. A lot of people are saying that after that, he should be the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I'm not mad at it. I think this I think this Falcons team is going to be really good. Bijan rushed for 20. He had a total of 124 yards, 100 receiving, and 24 rushing. This team is going to be good, man. I don't know defensively though, but this team is going to be all right. That's the biggest takeaway of this game. That his first official regular season start, essentially of the year, and he had 42 passes. So shout out to Michael Penix and shout out to the Bucs. Again, the Bucs, if the Bucs play to the best of their ability, they can be a Super Bowl caliber team. That's how balanced they are. So, and if you got a wide receiver like Emeka Ibuka going crazy like that, yeah, that's going to be a tough season for the NFC South. So, let's move forward. The San Francisco 49ers beat the Seattle Seahawks 17-13. They tried everything in their power to lose. You know they did because they cut the kicker, Jake Moody, I believe. They cut him yesterday, which is tough. You know, you don't want to see anybody get cut. But Brock Purdy, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He tried to get the game. I was expecting more from Sam Darnold. I was expecting more from this team, or the Seattle Seahawks team. I'm not going to lie to you, but, yeah. Christian McCaffrey looked okay. 22 carries, even though he only had 69 yards. And he had 73 yards receiving. Ricky Pearsall had 108 yards receiving for 4 receptions. Jesus. I don't know how the team is going to do moving forward. Because you can't have if they played a better team, they would have lost. Because Brock Purdy can't be giving up 2 interceptions. But yeah, I thought I had the Seattle Seahawks winning this game. I was wrong, obviously, and yeah, that was a cool game. Now, the Bengals beat. Wait, I'm sorry. Give me a second. Now the Raiders beat the Patriots 20-13. Geno Smith. I didn't know how he was gonna do. Geno Smith threw for 362 yards, bro. And Ashton Genty, he got 19 carries only for 38 yards. It wasn't productive, but Brock Bowers 5 receptions for 103 yards. Yeah, he's probably one of the best. He's definitely top 3 tight ends in the league. Drake May was pretty bad. I know when you look at the numbers, he threw for 287 yards. He wasn't good. Travion Hendrickson only carried 5. He wasn't good. It wasn't. Keyshawn Butte. It wasn't good. And I don't. If that's the Drake May that you're gonna get, then it's ooh, that's gonna be tough sledding. I'm sorry. And I may have been more down on the Raiders than I should have, but they looked really good. And Geno Smith, they looked to be in pretty good hands. Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's won every debut. I think when it was at USC, I think Stanford, Seattle. He's won every debut. Shout out to him. So, yeah, now we can talk about it. The Bengals beat the Browns 17-16. Bro, I know that the Bengals have a history of starting off slow, but I thought that was the whole reason for Joe Burrow and most of the starters playing in the preseason. They looked damn near as bad as they did last year. The only thing is you played against a worse team. You played against a team that has Joe Flacco as their quarterback, who went 31 for 45 for 290 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Like, it goes back to what I've said a couple times in this episode. If you would have played a worse team, or if you would have played a better team, I'm sorry, you would have lost. This could potentially be a long season for Joe Burrow and the Bengals if they play like they played on Sunday. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that the Browns defense is good. I know they have arguably the best defensive player in the league in Myles Garrett. I get it. But you should have more than just 17 points. And you lost by 1. You won by 1 point. I know it's a divisional game, but it's the Browns. Okay, Joe Flacco is their starting quarterback. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Browns play the Ravens this week. Let's see how different that looks. What did Jamar Chase? Jamar Chase, 2 receptions for 26 yards. T. Higgins, 3 receptions for 33 yards. Like, you think that's going to cut it? No. And the defense was horrible again. It's just you played against a team that don't got no offense. Let's move forward. Is that yeah, I think this is the last one, right? Yeah, the game that I will say this. The Arizona Cardinals beat the Saints 20-13. Spencer Rattler played much better than I thought. He had 214 yards. He pretty much played better than Kyler Murray, even though Kyler Murray had 2 touchdowns to Spencer Rattler's 0. Alvin Kamara was pretty good. The thing about this game is how horrendous the Saints jerseys were. I don't know if you guys can see it on the YouTube, but that jersey might be one of the worst jersey combos I've seen in a while. And that jersey emphasizes just how tough this season is going to be for the Saints. Now, I'm interested to see what they look like against a better opponent, but the Cardinals look pretty good. Again, I'm holding out judgment until they play a better opponent. But yeah, those jerseys suck, bro. Those are some ugly jerseys, and I don't mean to like crap on y'all, but Jesus. That was week 1. I know Thursday Night Football is tomorrow. And you have the Washington Commanders going against the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be tough. But I'm always going to roll with my Commanders, even if it's a daunting task. But we'll see. I also wanted to say congratulations to Carlos Alcaraz for winning the U.S. Open. I also, he beat Jarrett Skinner. He also beat Novak Djokovic to get there. Like, he is showing that he is one of, if not the best tennis player in all of the world. And how young he is kind of crazy. Shout out to him. Like, he won the U.S. How old is he? Let me see how old this man is. He is 22 years old and pretty much the number 1 ranked player in the world. Like that, he's tough, man. Shout out to him. And also shout out to Aryna Sabalenka. Sabalenka. I know I messed your name up. I apologize. Shout out to her. She won the U.S. Open as well on the women's side. She is 27 and the number 1 ranked player. I know that there was, she says some things about Coco Gauff last time they lost. But if Coco Gauff forgave her, then it is what it is. But yeah, she kind of dominated. She dominated, bro. Shout out to her. Shout out to both of Carlos Alcaraz and Aryna Sabalenka. Shout out to y'all for winning the U.S. Open, both men's and women's. And there you have it. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to grow it. We're almost at 2.1K followers. I appreciate you guys. Please, please, please subscribe. Tell a friend to subscribe, share, comment, like, do all of that. I'm trying to grow the podcast, and I cannot do it without you guys. So please follow this, or subscribe to the YouTube, as well as the DSPs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. No platform is bigger than the other. No platform is more important than the other. I'm trying to grow the podcast unilaterally, and I cannot do it without you guys' help. Like, comment, share, rate, anything that you can do. It definitely helps, and I appreciate you guys. For the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, please follow, please subscribe. I don't mind if you go back and forth. If you keep it respectful, just leave it in the comments. That's probably the quickest way to get to me. I post pretty much daily. I did take a couple of days off, but football is back, so I'm back. And yeah, please follow the socials. Until next time, much love.